Good morning, class. These are our notes about understanding polynomials. So a polynomial equation is going to be something like x cubed plus 4x plus set, something like that. So we're going to have these bigger exponents on x. We've been working a lot with exponents. There can be adding and subtracting. We can have multiplying here. We could really have more than one variable, and it's still considered a polynomial. So first, we just want to do a quick review about how exponents work. So on this first problem, we have an x squared plus an x squared. So remember, that's a 1x squared plus 1x squared. So what we do is we add our coefficients. 1 plus 1 is 2, and we keep it as just an x squared. On the next one, when we're multiplying, remember, we're trying to figure out how many factors we have all together. So x squared is at x times x cubed would be 3 more of them, and so it is x to the 5th power. So this is really difficult for students, that here we're multiplying, and so we're counting up how many factors of x we have total and just simplifying it that way. And here when we're adding, we are not changing the x squared. So really different. The next one, x squared and then cubed, means I have 3 factors of x squared. And so if we use what we learned here, 2 plus 3 made 5. This means 2 plus 2 plus 2. We're going to have 6 factors of x altogether. So this x squared is 2 factors and 2 more and 2 more. The next one is a trick question. I can only add when I have like terms, and these are not like terms, and so I can't simplify. So can't simplify. These are not a lot of space here, and they are not like terms. In order to be like terms, we have to have the same variable and the same exponent. So here I had 1x squared plus 1x squared. I could add. Here I have an x squared plus an x cubed. So they're both x's, but they have different exponents. So the original is simplified the way it is. This last one, remember, when we don't have parentheses, my 3 is not being raised to my 4th power, only my x's. So this is like a 3 times an x to the 4th times a 2 times an x. That's how we need to think about that. And so we would have 6x raised to the 5th power. So I, in an attempt to make the vocab as easy as possible, I just wrote out some of the main things that we need to know, vocab that we'll use, and then we're just going to be writing examples over here. So a monomial, so mono, you could think 1, is a number. Okay, well, a number could be something like 7. It could be a variable, so I'm going to write down an x, or it could be a product of a number and one or more variables. So we could have something like 8x squared y. I can't have square roots of letters, and I can't be dividing by letters, but I can be multiplying them. Degree of a monomial. So we've got 2 that are discussing degrees here. So if I'm looking at just a degree of a monomial, so like one of these terms here, it's the sum of the exponents of the variables in the monomial. So if I have like an x squared y, my degree would actually be 3. And that's because my x is being squared and my y is to the 1st power, and 2 plus 1 is 3. Most of the time, we're going to be looking at something that just has one variable. And this isn't even super common in Algebra 1, let alone survey. So most of the time, we'll be looking at something like 9x cubed, and we'll say, oh, that's degree 3. So we're going to be looking at those exponents. Trinomial is a polynomial with 3 terms. So tri means 3. And again, we're having to think back to what terms are. So a really common looking polynomial would be something like x squared plus 5x plus 6. So remember, those terms are separated by plus or minus signs. So this is 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms. So we have 3 terms here. Binomial will have 2 terms. So something that we might see would be like a 3x minus 7. So my first term is the 3x. My second term is the negative 7. So remember to include that sign in front. The degree of a polynomial. So degree of a monomial is just when I'm looking at basically one term. If I'm looking at a degree of a polynomial, I'm looking at the biggest degree that I have overall. So I look at all the different terms and pick out the biggest one. So again, if I go back to x squared plus 5x plus 6, well, I have degree 2 in the first one. This one's degree 1. This one's degree 0 because there's no x, so my biggest degree would be 2. So this would be degree 2. And we'll be working with degree 2 a lot. So just a quick review of adding and subtracting polynomials. So this is stuff we've already done, but I feel like the parentheses to group one polynomial and the other polynomial are maybe the different part. So first we could just think about adding like terms. That's what we've always done. So if I have a 23x to the fourth here, and my other one I have 7x to the fourth, and I would add those together and get 30x to the fourth. Then I would see let's see, I've got squared, but I want my powers to go in order. So next I'm going to look for cubed. And here's an x cubed over here kind of by itself. So I'm going to write down plus x cubed. And then next we're going to look at the x squareds. So I have a minus 3x squared right here. And then in the other one, I have a plus 3x squared. So minus 3x squared plus 3x squared is going to make a 0. Those are going to zero out, and we won't write them down. I wouldn't write down 0x squared. 0 times anything is 0, so we just don't write it. And then my last one, I've got a negative 15 and an 11. And negative 15 plus 11 would be a negative 4. So I'm going to write minus 4. So hopefully by now we're really understanding that when I see that minus 15, it's really like having a plus negative 15. So I can say negative 15 or I can say minus 15. It's really kind of the same thing. Okay, on my next example, the tricky part here is I'm not subtracting, or I'm not adding, I'm subtracting. So the minus sign has to go everything in the second group. So what I normally do on my own paper, and I always try to use a color on this so it's really obvious, is now I'm going to be subtracting this one, I'm going to be adding this one, I'm going to be subtracting the 7. So what that does is it changes the signs of everything in only the second group, right? This one has nothing in front, so these are all positive, but these ones we're changing all of the signs. That's what multiplying by a negative does. And then I'm just going to go through and find my like terms again. So I have a squared here, but this one has a cube. So I'd write down the cube first. So first we're going to write down negative 2x cubed. And then I'm going to write down the 5x squared because it's positive, it's plus 5x squared. So now I've used these two. If you want to cross things off as you use them, that's fine. But make sure that you're still able to read them. I'm just lightly crossing them out. I am not trying to erase them from existence. And then I have a minus 3x and a plus 5x. So negative 3 plus 5 would be 2. Since it's positive, I write plus 2x. And then for my last one, let's see, I've got a plus 2. And remember, I changed the sign. This is now a minus or a negative 7. So 2 minus 7 or 2 plus negative 7 is a negative 5. And so I'm going to write minus 5 here. So we're done on the first two. And again, this is review. The only thing that's different is having these parentheses around things. So we have been working with like terms all year. So the vertical format is a little bit different. So the vertical format, what I do is I rewrite this. So I'm going to go ahead and write the first one. And then when I write my second one, I'm going to stack it underneath and I'm going to line up my like terms. So that negative 6x cubed, I'm going to write underneath the 3x cubed. The 3x squared, I'm going to write underneath the 5x squared, and then the 6x, and then the 4. And then when I go to add, everything is in columns. I don't have to look for my like terms. So most of us actually prefer this. It's easier. We don't have to think. We can just go through and combine. I'm just combining these two, and these two, and these two, and these two. But it is an extra step to rewrite. And so it's up to you what you do. I don't care if you do our horizontal format, which is more traditional, or if you want to take the time to rewrite. So 3 plus negative 6, this would be a negative 3x cubed. These are both positive, so I'm adding. Remember, we're not changing our exponents when we're adding, only when we're multiplying. Multiplying by more factors changes them. Negative 3 plus negative 6 is a negative 9, so instead of writing a negative 9, I'm going to write minus 9x because it's the same thing. I could also write plus a negative, that's fine too. 8 and 4 makes 12. So on this next one, we're subtracting again. So remember that means this minus sign is going to everything here. And I'm going to distribute that while I rewrite. So first I'm going to write the 9x cubed minus 2x squared minus x plus 10. And then I'm going to distribute that negative and rewrite the second one. So this one's a little bit trickier. When I distribute, I have a negative 2x to the fourth, and that doesn't match up with anything here, and it's a bigger power. So I'm going to put it in the front. And then I don't have anything to match up with the 9x cubed. My next one is a now negative 5x squared. So I'm going to write it underneath the negative 2x squared. And then I'm going to bring the negative to this minus 8x. Now it's a plus 8x. I'm going to bring this negative to the minus 7, and now it's a plus 7. I really probably should have done my trick first, where I did this, because it was hard to remember to distribute all the way through. So let's just check our sign. Negative, negative, positive, positive now. Negative, negative, positive, positive. All right, we're all set. Everything is lined up. So because I don't have anything above 2x to the fourth here, I'm just going to copy down that negative 2x to the fourth. Same thing with the 9x cubed. I have nothing to combine it with. Since it's positive, I'm adding. Negative 2 and negative 5 is a negative 7, so minus 7x squared. Negative 1 plus 8 is a positive 7x, and 10 and 7 makes 17. So this is just a quick review about combining like terms, and then some vocab. So the big thing is, my takeaways here is, I would say, and this isn't a perfect definition, but when we're looking at a degree of a polynomial, it's basically going to be like our biggest exponent. And then remember, we can classify based on number of terms. This is one term, this is two terms, and a trinomial is three terms. Those are kind of our big takeaways on vocab. So this is just one term, this one had 1, 2, 3, and this one had 2. So basic vocab that I need you to have. All right, I hope you have a great day, and make sure you ask for help if you need it.